have it there. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Anybody else that joins and is watching the recording now, make sure to post it so it's accessible. But before we get started, I did want to ask you all one question, and feel free to put this in the chat. What is one thing you hope to take away today? Just put it in the chat, or feel free to unmute. I mean, we're a really small group, but what are you hoping to get out of this webinar today? You could put a word, you could put anything. What are y'all hoping to learn? And you could also unmute if you want, if you're comfortable with that.
I would say probably just like what are the specific like challenges like
Mhm.
law-wise in creating your own business as an undocumented student?
Okay. Thank you so much. Anybody else? David, Liz? Or you could put it in the chat. I can read
Can
it.
you hear me? Juan?
I can hear you, David. Yes.
Thank you. I was just working with it. Yeah, thank you for putting this on. I think in the past, I've been to a couple webinars
Yeah.
where folks have tried to explain how to like set like a LLC or a business up,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
it's been like a lot of different steps. So maybe
Yeah.
just like a high level, and then kind of essentially like a high level how to like get it going, because I think the hard part is like getting it going.
Yeah.
Uh, just because I'm over here in Arizona and I know the
Okay.
laws might be different than California. Um,
Okay.
but essentially there's like, there's like all these different companies that say they'll set an LLC for you for a
Mm-hmm.
price versus you doing it for yourself. So I'm assuming that there's like a high level like checklist
Yeah.
that you have to complete that at minimum you could do
Mm-hmm.
uh, to get it going. Whether or not you have a viable idea is another question, but just like a minimal starting
Yeah.
thing to get it going, like a bank account, EIN, that sort of thing. So
Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, David. I appreciate it. Anybody else? Liz, Alondra, one thing
Yeah.
you want to learn?
So, can you hear me? Good.
Yes, yes, yes. I
Okay.
can hear you well. Yeah.
Well, one of my top things I want to know is like how to handle business. Like, you can have a business, but I want to know like how can you maintain it as good and yeah, just be able to have full control on the things that you're doing.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And Alondra, thank you for joining us. I know you just recently joined us. I was just asking everybody, well, those that were comfortable sharing the one thing that they hope to learn or to take away today. But now, with that being said, I did want to sort of introduce myself a little bit. I'll share a little bit about the work that I've been working on, some of the stats, and then I'll share some insights that I learned by helping undocumented students start companies last year. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm also recording it. So just making sure that y'all are aware of that. I'll be reposting it after. Okay. So with that, let me go. So all right. So if you guys have never heard about us, my name is Juan Hernandez. I'm the founder of Prepare, and really what I focus on is building a company that helps undocumented students start companies. That's really what we do. In one sentence. Now, I started this because I attended UCLA from 2017 to 2022. And for my first 4 years, I had no DACA. So I started a photography business. I made over $10,000. And then in my last year, I landed my dream internship, but I wasn't able to get hired because of my status. So for the past years or so since I've graduated, since 2022, I've launched different companies, and today, I am the founder of Prepare, and my mission is to help more undocumented students become self-employed, because I believe that if they become self-employed, not only will they be able to get more jobs for themselves, but they'll also be able to create more opportunities. And a lot of the work I've done, I don't know where y'all are based. I know David is based in Arizona, as he mentioned. But I primarily work in California. This year, I am focused on expanding to other states, but I've already helped 147 undocumented students start companies, and I've collaborated with over 10 undocumented student centers here in California. And I've also been supported by other entrepreneurship programs at UCLA, by the Western Union Foundation. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be presenting is just based on what I've, who I've helped. And it's also based on my own personal experience going through these programs. So I'm going to be sharing a lot of insights, business ideas, frameworks, and everything. Okay, but that's a little bit about the company, a little bit about me, why I started it. Um, Now, like I mentioned, these are some of our statistics. Our programs are done in person, virtual, hybrid. I've done it all. We helped 30 companies start last year. We helped 10 students make at least their first dollar, and then 5 students created their first websites. Okay. And then all of our programs have a pitch competition. So at the end, we have students go up in person in front of a cohort and they compete for prize funding. All right. And this is how we help students. We help students in 3 ways: pitch their company with a group, so they work with a group. Alondra, I'll get to you. Just let me finish this slide, and then I'm happy to answer your question if you have a question. But okay, so we help students build a company in a group, help them get their first dollar, and I'll mention on how we do that. And we just teach them the framework on how they can start. How do you go from 0 to 1? Whether that means getting your first client, whether that means finding out the resources that are gonna get you to selling at farmers markets. That's really what we focus on. Alondra, did you have a question before I continue? I saw you raise your hand, but if it was on accident, then okay. Okay. Thank you so much. And Anna, thank you for joining us. I'm kind of just starting the presentation by sharing a little bit about Prepare and the stuff that we've been able to work on this year. Okay. A little bit on that. This is our framework that we teach every undocumented student. There's a total of 6 steps. What we really focus on is, again, the 0 to 1 step. How do you go from idea to writing a business plan to talking to customers to hopefully getting you paid before you even have a product or a service. And at the end, we have a pitch competition. Okay. And I'll leave the questions to the end. I do want to get to the presentation, but at the end, I'll be answering any question that you may have. Okay. Now, one thing that we find really useful in our programs for undocumented students is we have this $1 sale challenge. So ultimately, we give students the opportunity to, with just a business idea, to go on campus, talk to strangers, contact everyone on their phone to get them to actually sell their company with just an idea. And our last cohort made $67 with just 5 students. So that's another thing that we've done, last year. Now we're talking about success stories. Here's one of the success stories. We had a student that attended community college. She came in with a skincare product that she wanted to start selling at farmers markets. We helped her get her first 6 clients, and she won $700 in our pitch competitions. And today, she is selling at farmers markets every month. So that's some of the stuff that we were able to do last year. But it also goes outside of just products. We had a student from Outsac here in California. She wanted to start a postpartum doula business. So ultimately, she helps new mothers care for their newborns. And we were able to help her get her first 3 clients. And she is now selling on Yelp and Facebook. So we helped her figure out the marketing strategy, right? And we helped her set up her company, so proprietorship, get their licenses, permits. And we've done that a few times. So those are 2 of the biggest success stories that we have. Obviously, we've only helped 147 students. But what we want to continue doing, this year is just increase that impact because there's a bigger mission, right? This is the beginning, but this is my vision. So 10, 15 years down the line, I envision I'll be able to create a job creation ecosystem for the undocumented community. And the way that I envision this is via every new company that we can help an undocumented student create, we will be able to create more jobs. So let's say an undocumented student makes a company that needs to hire an intern, needs to hire a contractor for their website. We'll be able to create an ecosystem like that. And that's my long-term vision, to have a lot of new companies start, new internships, new fellowships, new independent contracting roles, so we can all build wealth together. All right. Now, that's just a little bit about Prepare. Here are my goals for today. I will be sharing key insights from working with all these undocumented student entrepreneurs. I'll talk a little bit about the challenges and opportunities that there are. I'll also present the business ideas that these students come up with. And then I'll share some strategies on how you can overcome legal, financial, marketing barriers. I'll give you like an overview of everything that I kind of build with the programs and how they help students. And then lastly, I'll share a little bit about the new program that I do plan on launching next month. Okay. But before we get started, do y'all have any questions? Any questions before we continue? Or just give me a thumbs up if we're good. And hi, Julio. I saw you just joined as well. Just give me a thumbs up if y'all are good. Okay, I see one thumbs up. All right, cool. All right. So let's dive deep into everything. Also, I don't want to I don't have a lot of text. Okay, just so you know, I don't have a lot of text on my slides. There's a lot of graphs, but I'll explain it. Okay, that's just how my brain functions. So just apologies if you're expecting a lot of words. This is probably the slides with the most amount of words as possible. All right. So going into challenges and insights, and again, right here at the bottom, you can see the source. I'm gonna be including different sources on where I get this information from, so y'all can also take a look at that if you wanna look at the recording. But let's go ahead on the challenges. So let me actually ask you all a question. What are some of the challenges that you think undocumented students face when considering entrepreneurship? You can feel free to put it in the chat or unmute. What comes to mind? What are some of the challenges that you think either you face or other undocumented students face?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. Can I answer that?
Yes, please. Thank you, Alondra.
Okay. Hi, my name is Alondra, and I do have a beauty business. And one of my challenges is, or was before, getting grants, getting scholarships to continue my education. Well, I started school back in 2017, 2018, and there was no scholarships, so I had to pay out of pocket. And one of the things that I really, really, really hope because it's 2025, is to help also dreamers or undocumented students to get fundings without having to do so many applications or you know a lot of barriers that I had when I didn't have my business. So I want to give back and continue growing in my business, but also helping other students that are in the beauty industry services. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alondra. Anybody else? And I see on the chat, funding is another big challenge. Yes. Thank you, Anna, for that. Anybody else? Anybody? One more person wants to share? There's no right or wrong. You're just sharing your experiences, unless you want to put it in the chat. Anybody else? And welcome, Adrian, and welcome, Julio. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, those are all challenges that every undocumented student does face. Just based on my data of helping 147 students, 193 applicants last year, these were the main challenges that we saw. So at the top is finding a framework. The second thing that students have a challenge with is marketing and sales, like figuring out how can we get clients, how can we start letting people know about our business, legal and compliance, networking, running a business like operations. But majority of the students that we worked with last year just needed a framework on how to get started, needed, networking and all of that. So I did want to share that at the beginning. And these are all the reasons why students want to get into entrepreneurship. They want to get mentorship, they want to find clients, they want to network, they want to access resources. And I can honestly say that, a lot of the resources, especially when I was a student at UCLA and I didn't have DACA, a lot of the resources, there wasn't a lot of resources for non-DACA folks or folks that didn't have, any form of status. So I completely agree with this because there just wasn't a lot. I mean, there's occasional information, but all of them are like either outdated, and that's just based on my experience. But I'm glad to see that some of the students that joined the programs also face those challenges. And then in terms of the business journeys, most of the students that we work with, are in the ideal stage. And then, yeah, there's some people that want to scale. There's some people that just want resources, but majority of the students are in the ideal stage. So I did want to share that's at least from the programs that we've done. These are the two common ones. Now, in terms of business trends, and again, like I mentioned, I don't have a lot of text on my slides, but on the business trends, these were the top seven trends that we saw in terms of industries that undocumented students are building companies on. You can see creative and media, food and beverage, health and wellness, e-commerce, custom products, tech, digital services, sustainability, and green energy. And this is like just an overview, but if you want to go deeper, these are all the business ideas that we had students apply for last year. So you can see it goes as specific as selling, starting a vending machine, having an electrician business, a handyman services. We even had a student try to start an AI for storytelling company. But you can see that it really ranges. So sometimes it's really difficult to try to find a one size fits all for all of these students and all of these companies because they all range. But the fundamentals are always the same in terms of how we can help them. But yeah, these are all the companies that students started last year. Okay. Now, some of you, at the beginning when we started this webinar, mentioned the legal side, mentioned funding, mentioned the structure, and I did also want to share some insights on that, on how I help these students and how I'm gonna continue helping these students start companies. But the number one question that, well, at least going back to the question that David had at the beginning, he mentioned how do you legalize your business, and especially when you're in a different state. And it's really simple. It's broken down into 4 steps, and I'll zoom in right here. But this can be applied to, even though a lot of my data is based on California, this can be applied anywhere where you live in terms of the state. As right now I'm doing research, but your step one, when you wanna, there's really 4 steps when you wanna legalize your business. All right. So your step one is to figure out what are the bills your state has. In California, there's 4 bills that actually help you start a company, and especially right now with the new administration, and a lot of people just don't know what resources to believe, and there's just a lot of misinformation out there. But at least in California, there's 4 bills that actually help you, and I think the most important bill to understand, and again, you can find these bills as well in your state. So if honestly, if you look at like Arizona bills for undocumented entrepreneurs, you would probably find it if you Google it or you use an AI tool to find them. But one of the bills, at least in California, is SB 1159 that allows undocumented students to start to get professional licenses with an I-10. There's a total of like 44 professional licenses that you can get, including real estate agents, including barbershops, including engineering, including nursing. And what a lot of students don't know, at least when they join our programs, is that even though you may not be able to get a what do you call it, an employee, you're not able to get a job normally, you can start a company with these licenses in that field and then contract your services to other places. But you have to look at it from a lens of, hey, I want to start a company. These are my potential clients, and not from a lens of I'm going to get hired as a 1099 W9 employee, because that's what I hear a lot. But that's step one. Just understand that there's a lot of resources in your state. Understand that there's a lot of resources, at least in California, it's probably the most. But that's step one. Step number two is to answer who owns the business. And this is where the conversation of a business structure comes in, right? So there's the sole proprietorship, one person owned business. LLC, 1 to 5 to 10 to 15 people can own that business. Corporation is another example of a business structure that, let me move here, that you can start. But that one, you mainly, have you guys ever heard of like Facebook raising X amount of money through investors? Just give me a thumbs up. Have y'all ever heard that, like online, or have you ever seen that when companies raise money? Yeah, so that's how a corporation works. So you see, with the company, with Prepare, I actually tried raising $200,000 from investors, and the only way they would invest that amount of money is if I turned my LLC into a corporation, because investors give you money, so they'll give you 200K in exchange for a percentage of ownership of your company. So a lot of companies don't really need a corporation, and unless you want to build a unicorn company, which is a company of over $1 billion or more, then you don't really have to think about a corporation. And then the partnership is just if you and your buddy want to start a company, you can do so. But that would be step two. So step one is figure out the bills, what bills can support you in your state. Step two is who owns the business. And then step three, you want to get permission, right? So when you think about getting permission, you want to get permission from the city, from the state, the federal. And by this, I mean you need to obtain the necessary permits and licenses. Obviously, if you want to do anything in engineering or something in construction, you want to make sure you have your licenses, or even accounting, right? If you start an accounting firm, you want to have your licenses, certifications. But also, there's websites where you can apply for your business license. There's websites where you can apply for, you know, your business name. And then you also need a tax ID number. And like we mentioned it earlier, you know, you need a tax ID number to set up a bank account. And also, if you want to get any form of funding through grants or anything, you need to have a business bank account. And the only way to have a business bank account is to get an EIN number. And the only way to get an EIN number, which stands for Employer Identification Number, you need to have a valid ITIN or SSN. But as long as you have this is easy to get, and whatnot. So that would be your step three. And then step four is when we talk about taxes, right? So this is another big question that I get in the programs that I run. But majority, what you need to know is that there's actually different types of tax help. If y'all have ever heard of VITA tax centers, so these are volunteers that get certified to help you with your taxes. They're good and they're free, but they're not able to help you with business taxes. So they may not be the best people. And this information, by the way, is from the IRS website. So if you go on the IRS website and you look at tax resources, there's a few ways on how you can find somebody to help you with your taxes. And these are just some examples of the 5 types of people that can help you. A tax professional is good. They're usually really cheap. But I personally work with a CPA when doing my taxes because CPAs are also certified by the IRS. So although this hasn't happened to me, this has happened to somebody that I know closely. So they filed their taxes, and then their identity was actually stolen for their SSN. And the only person that could actually help them is enrolled agents and CPAs to get their identity information back and to file their taxes again. Tax professionals may not have that in stone. And again, I'm just giving you an overview. There's like you can Google this a little bit more if you look at all these different types of professionals in taxes. I'm sure you'll find a lot of great information. But lastly, you don't really need a tax attorney unless like there's some stuff that you've done with the tax law. But if it's up to me, and if you're asking me in terms of what do I recommend students to where to go for business taxes, I always recommend enrolled agents and CPAs because they are connected to the IRS. So in case your taxes bounce back, identity is stolen, you can always reach out to them and they'll be able to help you. Tax professionals, they won't be able to help you, and tax attorneys are just too expensive for that. And that's it. So those are all the 5 steps. So I know it's a lot of information, and I know feel free to take a picture of this as well. But your step 1, know what bills are available. Step 2, who owns the business? That's the business structure. And yes, there's platforms that can help you set this up. You can also set this up on your own on the Secretary of State website. That's for like any state. Or you can also you can go on like legalzoom.com. You just pay X amount of money for somebody to do it for you. This it also varies on your state, but in California, if you visit calgo.cal.gov, that's where you'll find all your permits and licenses. And then these are just some of the tax professionals that can help you. But yeah, I know it's a lot of information, but those are the 5 steps on how you can legalize your business. And that's like surface level. Okay. Now going into, let me go into the next slide. Why can't I go to the next slide? Okay. Now in terms of funding options, I know a few of you actually mentioned this at the beginning as well. These are just based on, again, these are based on my experience joining programs. This is also based on so I've raised $30,000 for Prepare. So I'll give you, and I started this without DACA. So I'll give you some of the ways that I recommend students, and just based on my experience. So if you want to raise money for your company, one of the ways that I've raised money in the past for one of my programs was crowdfunding. So if you've ever heard of Kickstarter, you've ever heard of GoFundMe, you can actually set up a crowdfunding campaign, and raise money. Just make sure that you give something to the people that are donating, to your business, and that's one way you can raise money. Another way is this concept of bootstrapping. And bootstrapping just means that if you have some money saved, you can use that money to set up your company. Raising money, you can ask friends and family. I've asked my friends and family, $5, $10 of investment goes a long way when you're trying to get your foot off the ground. And also selling, parts of your services will also give you form of funding. But that's one way on how you can get unlimited funding, because there's no limit on how much you can raise on these platforms, no limit on bootstrapping. That's the first way that I recommend students. And then the second way are more like government funded, or like if you go to college or university, you can also have access to these. So, for example, there's entrepreneurship pitch competitions. So I've seen pitch competitions. So ultimately, what they are is you sign up to compete to pitch in front of potential investors, people that like have companies. And if you win first place, you can get anywhere from $500 to $1 million. But you have to look at these startup pitch competitions, and sometimes they're global, they're national. And you do have to prepare a 60-minute pitch or 3-minute pitch, 5-minute pitch. But with that, what I've seen, they don't really ask for your status. They don't really care as long as your business has potential. And pitch competitions, usually it's money that you never have to give back. So it's also an important thing that I've seen. I saw this at UCLA, and even with the programs that I host today, we do pitch competitions. Another one that I recommend students to also look at is there's a lot of entrepreneurship fellowships. There's one called the Future Founders Entrepreneurship Fellowship. I was part of that one. It gave me $5,000 just for being a part of it. The only thing is that you are competing with other companies, other student companies, and with entrepreneurship, you're always going to be competing. Like that's just a set in stone that you're gonna do. But so you do have to submit an application, get accepted. Sometimes they interview you, but if you get accepted, you get networking opportunities, but also $5,000 that just go straight to your bank account when you're done. And they do have like guidelines and milestones that you have to hit. But if you look at entrepreneurship fellowships, they also don't care about your status. They don't care about I-10, nothing. No, I mean, they don't care about whether you have DACA or not. All they really care about is that your business idea has potential. And personally, I've gotten like $5,000 just on an entrepreneurship fellowship when I was at UCLA. So that's also another way that you can get funding. And then the last way is you can apply for business grants when you're looking at funding. And business grants, just think of them as scholarships for your business. The government actually has money for new companies starting. And they give them, and you can get like $5,000 to $10,000. But again, you have to be part of, most of the time, you have to be part of entrepreneurship programs that give you that funding. But it's funding that you don't have to pay back. It's not a loan. It's nothing like that. But it does have requirements. So I had a business grant. The only requirement is that I couldn't use it for taxes. I couldn't use it for other stuff, but I could use it for equipment. I can use it for renting a space, getting new technology. But it tells you. So yeah, in terms of funding options for undocumented students, there's a lot. But I would say if you want to go towards the government school route, there's these pitch competitions, fellowships, and grants. But if you want to go on the stuff that you can control, crowdfunding, bootstrapping, raising money, friends and family, and selling stuff. Okay. Uh, any questions? I know it's a lot of information, but I'll kind of I'll stop here for a little bit. Any questions? We're good. Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. And again, I use a lot more graphs, like I mentioned, because yeah, it just easier for me to understand. All right. All right. Next slide. All right. Now, in terms of marketing, the strategies that we help undocumented students last year is really simple. Just 3 steps that we help students. Step one, whenever you have a company, your step one is always going to be letting people know about your product or service or promotion. And there's really only 3 ways. You can pay to promote your product. That's through advertisements. You can do this on social media, on Google. You can also promote by yourself, which is the number one way that students actually make their first dollar. But this includes like posting content on social media, doing events, sending emails, um, sending text messages to people, and then the third way is to let other people promote your product by themselves. So this includes having testimonials on your website. Whenever I try a new restaurant and I really enjoy it, I send it to my friends. That's a way that I am promoting their company without them paying me, right? So those are the 3 strategies. That's step one, promotion. Step number 2 is the sales strategies, right? So once people know about your product or service, you need to find a way for them to actually give you money in exchange and become your client, right? So the way that you do that, and these are, and I'm kind of just sharing what we teach students, but the first one is to give it away for free. And I know a lot of people are like, why would I give it away for free? If nobody knows about you and you have no credibility, um, don't be afraid of giving it away for free, but just make sure you get something in return. The second way that you can actually close potential clients is you can do something for free in exchange for X. So I'll give you an example. When I did a photography business at UCLA, I did a free photography event in exchange for using their image on my website. And with those images, I was able to create flyers with their consent. So I got something in exchange for that. The third way that I tell students to how they can get their first sale is they can do the 80/60/40 discount method. So it's really simple. Your first 5 clients, you give an 80% discount. Your next 5 clients, you give a 60% discount. And your next 5 clients, you give a 40% discount. And I used this strategy last year when I was selling a course online through my TikTok. And I made $10,000 in 2 months just by doing this discount. So the first 5 people that came through the door, I said, hey, I'll give you an 80% discount. The next 5 people, 60%. The next 5 people, 40%. And then after those first 15 clients, you can charge whatever you want to charge, right? But that's another way that you can get your sales. And then the last one that I teach students is to get bonuses, to give bonuses on your offer. So whenever you go to McDonald's, or actually, I went to McDonald's yesterday, and I was buying a burger. They asked me, would you like some fries and would you like a soda? Those are examples of bonuses. So things that you can add to your offer so it increases the value of what it is that you're selling. So we help students kind of figure that out through our program. So that's step one, that's step two. And then step three is volume. So I make this clear to students that if you're trying to get your first client, your first 10 clients, you need to let about 1,000 people know about your business in order to get at least your first client. And when I was selling a course last year, I reached out to 4,000 people in 2 months, and that's how I was able to get the $10,000. So it's always, the more you do, the more people will know about you, and the more people know about you, the higher your chances are of landing your first client. But yeah, that's just something that we teach students in our programs. Okay. All right. Now with that, I know we're almost running out of time. It's 5:43, but I did also want to use this time to announce our new program that we are going to be hosting, this year, and hopefully is not a one time. It's an ongoing thing that we do on and on. So this year, my goal personally, is to help 1,000 undocumented students start their company, get their first client, set up their company. I want to help them get there. So last year, I had 3 programs designed to help undocumented students start their companies. And the program that ended up working out the most was our 5-hour boot camp. And again, this is the framework that we have where we take students step by step. So what I wanted to do, and based on the opportunities that we did last year, I wanted to create a program that is accessible, where it doesn't depend on what school you go to. It doesn't depend on whether you have a business idea, because I realized that a lot of these programs that I was a part of, at UCLA, were only really accessible to me. So I wanted to create something that, was accessible to anybody. I also understand that today there's a growing number of students that don't have DACA, so they are very there's limited resources for that population, and like I mentioned, I dealt with this when I was a student at UCLA. So I wanted to create a program that it doesn't matter what your immigration status is, as long as you want to start a company, you should be able to do so. I also wanted to create this program to collaborate with more dream centers, and first and foremost, I want to make the best entrepreneurship program for undocumented students. So here is how it's gonna work, and how you can apply if you're interested in this program. So ultimately, it's gonna be a 5-hour program, but it's gonna be a sponsored program. So on one side, if you're an undocumented student and you want to start a company in 5 hours, and you want to network with other undocumented students, you're going to be able to do so. And the program for you is going to be free. Like, you're going to be able to sign up. And again, we're doing a pilot next month, but you'll be able to sign up. You're going to be able to tell us your business idea. We'll probably do programs that are cohort based. So that's one of the things that we learned last year, where some students want to build products, some students want to build services. And I realized that it's much easier to build different cohorts. So we also want to pilot that. And then obviously, because we are a for-profit company, we are looking for sponsors to sponsor anywhere from 1 student to 15 students for this pilot program. Okay. So ultimately, this is a program that we're going to pilot next month. But if you're an undocumented student, you'll be able to join it for free. And then we're going to try to find as many sponsors as possible so we can fund this. We can fund the pitch competition and all the other costs that we have associated with this, to help us get to that goal of helping 1,000 students. All right. So now with that, I am going to end it off here with some instructions. And then we should have approximately a few minutes to answer questions. So I don't know if we have any sponsors here, but I will include the instructions here. So here's the instructions for people that want to sponsor organizations or allies. They scan this QR code. They on this QR code is gonna take them to my Calendly link. They'll select the date and the time right here. They'll fill out the details, and then they'll just book a meeting with me by selecting these two. And then we'll talk on how many students they want to sponsor. But again, I'll be sending this out after we are done with this. And then if you're an undocumented student and you want our help to help you start your company or just take it to the next level, then here are the instructions. So again, you scan a QR code. So you scan this one, you fill out a waitlist form. Okay, and then you just hit submit, and it's going to be that simple. You're going to be notified of when we do decide to launch this program. It's probably going to be launched within the next week or 2 weeks. And then you'll be notified, and it's going to be a virtual program, and you're going to have access, and it's going to be great. So with that being said, everyone, I really, really appreciate your time. I'll stick around. Here's my email. Here's my website. Here's our Instagram. Feel free to follow us as we will continue on this mission. But with that, what are your questions? Yes, Alondra, go ahead.
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for those big tips. Those
Yeah.
are, I love the map. I love all the tips you're giving out because it is getting tougher out here. But you know what? We're gonna get through it, and I loved what you said. I've been an entrepreneur for more than 7 years, and I loved it. And also, would you like me to share it with like on Instagram? Can we share it on Instagram and to other people, the QR code so they could donate or sponsorship? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, right now we haven't made any flyers. That's why I said like we'll have a wait list. But yeah, if anything, by the end of this week or early next week, we'll post a flyer. We'll also send an email with all the information to get, and the payment information too of the per student. So yeah, yeah, I would appreciate
Mm,
as much help as I can get uh
yeah,
to 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 get there.
thank you so much.
Yeah. No, thank you, and I appreciate it. And I'd love to connect with you as well. You say you've been an entrepreneur. You know, we also have in other programs we've had fireside chats. So I bring in other entrepreneurs from the community, and you know, I'd love to collaborate with you so you can speak to students in the future about your experience, because that's also the most important thing too, hearing from people that have done it.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm also a DACA recipient, and
Yeah.
I have another business coming up. Hopefully, primeramente Dios. But
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for that. I'm so excited for that. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments? Um, yeah. Any questions, comments? Anything you want me to go over? Anything else, y'all?
I was just wondering if we're gonna get like a recording of this meeting, just because it was like a lot of good information, but still quite a bit. So
Yeah, yeah. I am. That's why I recorded it. Let me actually stop recording right now. Thank you for the reminder.